Welcome to our weekly roundup of French stories. Now, this week can be summed up with the words D-Day diplomacy as world leaders gathered in France to mark the 80th anniversary of the Allied landings. Ceremonies overshadowed by the war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, here in Paris, the Eiffel Tower has been decked out with the Olympic rings ahead of the Summer Games. And football star Kylian Mbappé has confirmed that he will indeed be leaving the City of Light for the Spanish capital after signing with Real Madrid. But we begin in Normandy with the ceremonies that have been taking place all week, marking the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings. Commemorations marked both by the exclusion of Russian President Vladimir Putin and the inclusion of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. His presence gave an added layer of resonance to the event, reminding that war has returned to the doorstep of Europe for the first time since World War II.
A new generation of leaders lines up on Omaha Beach to honour the soldiers of World War II and the fight for democracy. The international ceremony of the 80th D-Day anniversary kicked off on Thursday afternoon with a series of performances, readings and choreographed parachute jumps, a tribute to the last remaining veterans.
The liberation, our liberation, was not a one-day affair. It took the slow reconquering of Europe through war. It took a long time and relentless sacrifice brought on by love for freedom.
French President Emmanuel Macron was joined by 26 leaders or their representatives. Among those invited, US President Joe Biden, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, the UK's Prince William, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in his usual wartime attire. Russia's war on Ukraine means Vladimir Putin was not invited to the ceremony, Macron's office insisting the sacrifice of the Soviet people would still be honoured. But Russia's ongoing invasion on European soil has cast a shadow over commemorations.
The struggle between a dictatorship and freedom is unending. Here in Europe, we see one stark example. Ukraine has been invaded by a tyrant bent on domination. To surrender to bullies, to bow down to dictators, is simply unthinkable.
Throughout the day, leaders have also been drawing parallels between Nazi Germany and the threats facing Western democracies today. And Biden pointed to the fact it may be the last ceremony with living veterans, which he said should inspire Americans to continue their fight against tyranny.
Well, the commemorations were particularly moving, marked by the knowledge, as we heard in that report, that they may be the last in the presence of veterans, many of whom are in their late 90s or even older. Our reporters spoke to 100-year-old veteran Harold Terens, who was awarded France's Legion of Honor this week. And we're thinking of him this Saturday because today he's getting married to his 96-year-old fiancée, Jeanne Swirlin. Here he is earlier this week.
It's my fourth visit here. I was here on the 50th anniversary with Bill and Hillary Clinton. I was here on the 70th with President Obama, and I was here on the 75th with Trump and had a big hug from Melania. So it was exciting, but it also is sad and brings back many unpleasant memories. But I really came to invite all these kids lying here to my wedding on Thursday.
On Saturday.
Oh,
Wedding's on
today
Saturday,
is Thursday.
Thursday.
On Saturday, sorry. You know, I'm 100 years old. My bride-to-be is 96. Where is she?
That's fantastic.
We lost her. She's ahead.
I lost my bride.
All of our congratulations to the happy couple. After D-Day commemorations, Emmanuel Macron hosted both Joe Biden and Volodymyr Zelensky for state visits. And the major topic on the agenda was, of course, the war in Ukraine. While Biden promised Zelensky another $225 million in aid, Macron said he wanted Kyiv's EU accession talks to start by the end of the month and to finalize the creation of a coalition of military instructors in the coming days. Eliza Herbert has more.
At France's presidential palace, Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron warmly welcomed their guests, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and his wife Elena Zelenska. It was a welcome that extended beyond handshakes and smiles and quickly into words of affirmation, with Macron saying he wants to see talks on Ukraine's ascension to the European Union begin by the end of the month.
France will continue to support Ukraine in all different ways, both at the European level and also discuss Ukraine joining the European Union.
The French president said they had agreed to provide fighter jets to Ukraine and to immediately begin training, equipping and financing a brigade of 4,500 Ukrainian soldiers. While he did not mention sending advisors, he said he wanted to immediately finalise the creation of a coalition of military instructors for Ukraine. Zelensky in turn offered his gratitude and echoed statements he made earlier in the day. Speaking to France's National Assembly on Friday morning, he thanked the country for choosing what he calls the side of humanity, but called on them and other Western allies to do more, saying Europe is no longer in a time of peace.
Once again in Europe, cities are being completely destroyed and villages are being burnt down. Once again in Europe, filtration and deportation camps are appearing, as well as hatred, which has become a new Russian cult.
Zelensky also said he hopes next week's International Peace Summit in Switzerland can finally bring Ukraine a step closer to the end of the war.
Moving on to other topics, a full manuscript of Albert Camus' classic existentialist novel, The Stranger, sold at auction this week for over €650,000. The buyer so far remains anonymous. Now, the manuscript is dated April 1940, 2 years before the novel was published, but its that date of origin is believed to be fake. Solange Mougin has more on this manuscript's mysterious history.
In their hands, there's a precious document, a 104-page draft of Albert Camus' L'Étranger, or The Stranger. Handwritten by the famed novelist himself, it's filled with crossed-out words, drawings, and a date, April 1940. But in fact, Camus may have been jesting with that date. The novel wouldn't be finished for another year.
Without a doubt, in 1944, Camus needed money. So he came up with the idea of selling this complete manuscript to a collector.
Getting to the bottom of when Camus actually wrote out this draft required some digging.
It was necessary to look into the archives, including those in the Somme department, comparing it with other manuscripts. We still have work to do to get all the answers.
Published in 1942, The Stranger, which also goes by the title The Outsider in English, was Camus' first novel. Its original print run was just 4,400 copies, but it quickly became a bestseller. Now translated into 68 languages, it's widely seen as one of the greatest novels of the 20th century. And this copy, handwritten by the Nobel laureate himself, with its jesting false date, is indeed one of a kind.
Well, here in Paris, the 5 Olympic rings have been installed on the Eiffel Tower. Still, much of the city is still not ready for the Games, with less than 2 months now to go before the opening ceremony. While over 75% of the venues for this year's Olympics are existing stadiums or structures, the streets of Paris continue to look like an open-air construction site. Sophie Lamotte has this report.
Just a month and a half left to go before the Paris Olympics this summer, and preparations are still underway. Bridges, major landmarks, it seems like every inch of Paris is undergoing a major facelift for the event.
I walked past a month ago and construction was just starting. It's crazy how fast they work.
Around the Alexander III Bridge, workers are focusing on these huge grandstands. They need to be completed by the end of the month for the opening ceremony, but also for the triathlon event expected to take place in the Seine. Just a few hundred meters away, Place de la Concorde will host the urban sports. More than 200 construction workers are deployed here every day to build the Olympic half-pipe ramps for the freestyle BMX and skateboarding competitions. This huge metal structure will be covered to create a marquee for the 3x3 basketball matches.
We have 2 arenas that are almost done for the skate park and freestyle. These grandstands are going to be up to 12 meters high.
On the Invalides, the biggest archery stadium in the world will soon see the light of day. 8,000 spectators are expected for the event.
We're at the heart of the stadium, so the grandstands will be on each side of this field.
As ladders and cranes take over the streets of Paris, so do police forces, diverting traffic away from building sites and cornering off large parts of the capital, where 10 to 15,000 people are expected this summer.
And in this week's big football news, after years of rumors, French star Kylian Mbappé confirmed that he has signed a 5-year contract with Real Madrid. It comes after he formally announced last month that he would be leaving his hometown club, Paris Saint-Germain, after 7 years. Now, Parisian fans can still root for the striker as part of France's national team. The Euros kick off in Germany in just under a week, and while Mbappé won the World Cup with France in 2018, the 25-year-old said the Euros are, quote, a big black spot on his record.
It's a competition we haven't won for 24 years. It's huge for our country. Let's not add additional pressure. As I said, the objective is to arrive ready for this competition. We continue to prepare to be in the best possible shape, to perform right at the start of the group stages. That's the first competition.
And we'll, of course, be rooting for Mbappé and for l'Équipe de France at the Euros this year. That brings us to the end of A Week in France. But thanks for watching, and stay with us if you can on France 24. We have more news coming up in just a moment.